How much do I owe you? Professor? The barman asked in a tender and trembling voice, pulling out a fat wallet. As much as you like, the professor said curtly and dryly. The barman took out 30 rubles and placed them on the table, and then, with an unexpected softness, as if operating with a cat's paw, he placed on top of the bills a clinking stack wrapped in newspaper. And what is this? Kuzmin asked, twirling his mustache. Don't scorn it, citizen professor, the barman whispered. I beg you, stop the cancer. Take away your gold this minute, said the professor, proud of himself. You'd better look after your nerves. Tomorrow have your urine analyzed, don't drink a lot of tea, and don't put any salt in your food. Not even in soup? The barman asked. Not in anything, ordered Kuzmin. Ah! The barman exclaimed wistfully, gazing at the professor with tenderness, gathering up his gold pieces and backing towards the door. That evening the professor had few patients, and as twilight approached the last one left. Taking off his white coat, the professor glanced at the spot where the barman had left his money and saw no banknotes there but only 3 labels from bottles of a Brau d'Urso wine. Devil knows what's going on. Kuzmin muttered, trailing the flap of his coat on the floor and feeling the labels. It turns out he's not only a schizophrenic but also a crook. But I can't understand what he needed me for. Could it be the prescription for the urine analysis? Oh. He's stolen my overcoat. And the professor rushed for the front hall, one arm still in the sleeve of his white coat. Xenia Nikitishna! He cried shrilly through the door to the front hall. Look and see if all the coats are there. The coats all turned out to be there. But instead, when the professor went back to his desk, having peeled off his white coat at last, he stopped as if rooted to the parquet beside his desk, his eyes riveted to it. In the place where the labels had been there sat an orphaned black kitten with a sorry little muzzle, meowing over a saucer of milk. What's this, may I ask? Now this is, and Kuzmin felt the nape of his neck go cold. At the professor's quiet and pitiful cry, Xenia Nikitishna came running and at once reassured him completely, saying that it was, of course, one of the patients who had abandoned the kitten, as happens not infrequently to professors. They probably have a poor life, Xenia Nikitishna explained. Well, and we, of course. They started thinking and guessing who might have abandoned it. Suspicion fell on a little old lady with a stomach ulcer. It's she, of course, Xenia Nikitishna said. She thinks, I'll die anyway, and it's a pity for the kitten. But excuse me, cried Kuzmin. What about the milk? Did she bring that, too? And the saucer, eh? She brought it in a little bottle, and poured it into the saucer here, Xenia Nikitishna explained. In any case, take both the kitten and the saucer away, said Kuzmin, and he accompanied Xenia Nikitishna to the door himself. When he came back, the situation had altered. As he was hanging his coat on a nail, the professor heard guffawing in the courtyard. He glanced out and, naturally, was struck dumb. A lady was running across the yard to the opposite wing in nothing but a shift. The professor even knew her name, Marya Alexandrovna. The guffawing came from a young boy. What's this? Kuzmin said contemptuously. Just then, behind the wall, in the professor's daughter's room, a gramophone began to play the foxtrot. Hallelujah, and at the same moment a sparrow's chirping came from behind the professor's back. He turned around and saw a large sparrow hopping on his desk. Keep calm. The professor thought. It flew in as I left the window. Everything's in order. The professor told himself, feeling that everything was in complete disorder, and that, of course, owing chiefly to the sparrow. Taking a closer look at him, the professor became convinced at once that this was no ordinary sparrow. The obnoxious little sparrow dipped on its left leg, obviously clowning, dragging it, working it in syncopation. In short, it was dancing the foxtrot to the sounds of the gramophone, like a drunkard in a bar, saucy as could be, casting impudent glances at the professor. Kuzmin's hand fell on the telephone, and he decided to call his old schoolmate Borit, to ask what such little sparrows might mean at the age of 60, especially when one's head suddenly starts spinning. The sparrow meanwhile sat on the presentation inkstand, shat in it, I'm not joking, then flew up, hung in the air, and, swinging a steely beak, pecked at the glass covering the photograph portraying the entire university graduating class of '94, broke the glass to smithereens, and only then flew out the window. The professor dialed again, and instead of calling Borat, called a leech bureau, said he was Professor Kuzmin, and asked them to send some leeches to his house at once. Hanging up the receiver, the professor turned to his desk again and straightaway let out a scream. At this desk sat a woman in a nurse's headscarf, holding a handbag with the word leeches written on it. The professor screamed as he looked at her mouth. It was a man's mouth, crooked, stretching from ear to ear, with a single fang. The nurse's eyes were dead. "This bit of cash I'll just pocket," the nurse said in a male basso, "no point in letting it lie about here." She raked up the labels with a bird's claw and began melting into air. Two hours passed. Professor Kuzmin sat in his bedroom on the bed, with leeches hanging from his temples, behind his ears, and on his neck. At Kuzmin's feet, on a quilted silk blanket, sat the gray-mustached Professor Borat, looking at Kuzmin with condolence and comforting him, saying it was all nonsense. Outside the window it was already night. What other prodigies occurred in Moscow that night we do not know and certainly will not try to find out, especially as it has come time for us to go on to the second part of this truthful narrative. Follow me, reader. Book 2. Chapter 19. Margarita. Follow me, reader. Who told you that there is no true, faithful, eternal love in this world? May the liar's vile tongue be cut out.